Welcome to Attenuation, a weekly podcast where two friends come together to drink beer, discuss beer styles and trends, and just generally ruminate on the meaning of life, aka beer. If you enjoy your time with us, we invite you to become a weekly listener and subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, here is this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
Hello.
There you go, right on cue. Today, we are doing our top 10 favorite beers. So this is really hard, by the way. Did you have trouble thinking of your 10 favorite beers, Steven?
I did, yeah. I mean, certainly the first 5 came pretty quickly. And then after that, I had to look back at some notes and stuff to really figure it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I had previously kind of made fun of myself for keeping track of my notes in like a Moleskine journal, but it was invaluable in this exercise. And so I'm considering doing it again, as cheesy as it is, just to kind of have that record of the beers that I really liked and their tasting notes. So it might be a return of the journal.
You have to just put it in your back pocket and carry it with you at all times.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, it's kind of nerdy. So anyways, well, before we get into that, we always have to follow tradition. Best part of the podcast is drinking beer.
Yeah, I got a fun one today too.
Okay, well, I'll introduce mine, and then I'll give some nose notes, and then I'll hand it over to Steven. I am drinking, we talked about how I like Flanders ales. So there's a very famous one, the Duchesse de Bourgogne. I don't know how to say it. I should have looked it up before we started. That's not how you pronounce it, by the way. But it has like the lady on it. It's very famous. It's actually pretty widely available. Well, they came out with a new one. I'm not sure if it's new. It's the first time I've ever seen it. It's a cherry version. So it's kind of the same beer, except they add local sour cherries are added to the maturing beer. And I love a cherry in a beer. So I
was just going to say, it sounds right up your alley.
Like I already like this beer, the normal one. So adding cherries just seems like a win-win for me. So let's see. And I have a feeling this is going to be pretty red when I pour it out. So it's kind of the same color. It has that deep brown. And then the head is very minimal. It's like little tiny bubbles that almost immediately pop. And there's not really any lasting head. But we'll see what this smells like.
Looks like wine.
It does look like wine. So it smells like vinegar. I always think these smell like vinegar. Vinegar and wood. And then, of course, cherry. It smells like wine, too. And then, yeah, it's kind of got that effervescent funk. Kind of goes along with these. It smells good so far. I'm going to start tasting it while you introduce your beers, and I'll let you know how I like it.
So I have 2 beers today. I wanted to do a side-by-side tasting today. I found this whiskey barrel-aged sour called Lady Marmalade, and it's based off of their original Miss Marmalade. This is from Martin House Brewing in Fort Worth, Texas. Everything they do is just so good. They do really wild stuff. Depending on where you are, you can find Martin House pickle beer and spicy pickle beer.
Have you had those?
Oh, yeah.
Are they good?
It's like drinking pickle juice.
Interesting.
You know, so as a Goza lover, that's kind of I think they do kind of consider it a Goza because it's so salty anyway. Yeah, I mean, it really is just like drinking pickle juice.
Okay, I really want to try one of those.
I basically always have it in my house.
That sounds awesome.
It's kind of a good beer, like if you've just been sweating a lot and you can get some salt back in you.
I want to try the spicy one too. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that one's a little less palatable just because like it's hard to drink something that's spicy. You know, it's like it's not refreshing, but
yeah, you got to be in the mood for that one, I think.
But they're very popular. People are always trying to find them and buy it. Yeah. So,
all right, cool.
But yeah, Martin House, they do some really, really funky stuff, and their sours are especially cool. They have like a grape and lactose sour that I've been wanting to try, and just some weird stuff. But anyway, I'm excited. So this Miss Marmalade is the original. It is 7%, which kind of surprised me for just kind of a basic sour. But This is they call it a fruity sour ale with lactose and citrus. As far as I know, they just use orange. Like they use orange peel, orange juice, I think. It's like bright orange.
That's awesome. Hold it up so I can see. Oh, yeah.
Bright orange. Even the head has like a strong orange tint to it, like an orange whipped cream at the top. And then I'll pour the other one out too. I can do some side by side notes.
Now, what is the barrel aged one's ABV? Is it much higher?
Yeah, 10%.
Okay.
This looks like sun-kissed soda coming out of the can.
That's funny.
But this one's a little bit darker. It's kind of a burnt orange. If we're talking Crayola crayons here.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely picked up some color from the barrel aging, I would guess.
But same thing. So it says Imperial Lactose Sour with orange peel, orange juice, orange puree, aged 4 to 5 months on whiskey barrels.
I'm excited for these two. You gotta try the regular one first, right?
Let's try the regular one first.
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally straight orange juice. There's nothing else to get. I'd like to say it's a nice complex, a bunch of different flavors, but it's all orange. It's like sticking your face in like a bundle of cuties, you know?
Okay, yeah.
Like you get that orange peel too. I'm gonna start drinking. You can talk about your beer a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
or I guess I could give nose notes on the.
Oh yeah, let me know what the barrel aged.
We don't know how to do this.
Well, you really threw a wrench in the gears.
Yeah, I did.
Beers.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. So this one smells like orange, but like a booze-soaked orange.
So you're getting some of that stronger alcohol. Can you smell any of the barrel, like the wood, or?
Yes, oak, orange, and booze on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about yours, and then I'll drink these.
All right, you dive into those. So I really like this one so far. I would really like to get it again and then get the original and try them side by side. Because kind of how I remember the original, it's very similar, except this one has a lot more cherries. So the taste on entrance, you really get like vinegar, and there's a lot of cherry. It's tart and sweet kind of at the same time. Then you get a little bit of wood, red wine, and then just this cherry finish. And it's kind of dry on the finish too. But it's really good. I really like the original. I think I like this cherry better. But I think I will try to try them side by side to kind of see the difference. But I hope they keep making this. I'm not seeing too much information about like when this was brewed. It does say availability rotating / seasonal. So might be something they do once a year or something like that. But I like this cherry one. This is definitely a thumbs up for me.
Awesome. Okay, so I've got both mine under my belt. The original is amazing. I mean, it really is like sun-kissed soda with a little bit of like, it's like a complex sun-kissed soda. You know, like has a little bit more of that like orange peel bitterness, really good sourness. I mean, Martin House Brewing is one of those breweries where once you've had one really good sour from them, it's a good indication that they know what they're doing. You know, they have a good kettle souring program or whatever, or they one of their brewers is good at brewing sours or whatever. But they especially after you've had a couple of beers from a certain brewery, sours that nailed it, it's a good indication that they kind of have the science of the brewing a sour down. So what I like about this is the sourness is perfect, and it's just great. It's just orange peel, a nice effervescent carbonation. It's really nice. Now, the Imperial Lady Marmalade is really hard to drink.
Oh, no.
So it has a really nice sourness, too, and really good orange rind flavors, but the booze is brutal.
And I hate that.
And maybe it's just me with the whiskey barrel aging, I'm sure, like, I guess I should have assumed it was going to be pretty boozy, but it is like really, really sweet, syrupy, boozy.
And we've talked about this before. I think some people like that boozy note, and that's kind of why it's present in some of the stronger beers. I'm more impressed when something has a high alcohol content and doesn't have that boozy note. So yeah, that just the way you're describing it is a bit of a turnoff for me.
Well, the thing is, like with the original, I would, if I drank this and somebody asked like, hey, what do you think the ABV is on this? I'd be like 4.5, 5 max.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's 7 is pretty incredible. It is amazingly well hidden in the first one. The 10% in the second one tastes like 15% to me. Like it is just super strong.
Gotcha.
Almost like cough syrupy. Um, I don't know. Yeah, it's not good. But I
So
could
are we
chug
at?
this first one.
So we're at thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I could absolutely smash this first one. It's so good.
Okay, nice. I'm excited you found. At least you like the first one. I think that sounds really good. That sounds intriguing to me. That orange.
I got to get you some Martin House beers because they do some funky stuff. But it's
I,
always fun. It's always good.
I like the weird stuff. So
It's
all
funny
right.
you have brewers like Anchor Brewing that we talked about last week. like they don't brew like a milkshake IPA, you know, like
No.
like they just have their like 5 standards that they've been making for 100 years now. And then you have these other breweries that I think there's one called Wiley Roots in Colorado, and it's just if you go down their tap list, it is the craziest mix of random stuff and milkshake IPAs and lactose sours and stuff, and with all these crazy fruits.
Yeah, they're going at it.
Yeah. It's just two different mindsets.
It is
Very,
that is
very
interesting to think about. Yeah, it's like tradition versus exploration. All right, cool. Well, that was our beer tasting. I think we do have a beer news update from one of our previous episodes.
Yeah, so I discussed briefly in one of our news segments that Texas has these weird laws where you can't buy alcohol on Sundays until noon, and so there's this movement to like abolish that ban. Well, they've made a little bit of progress just over the weekend. The legislature signed a bill that changed it to 10 a.m. on Sunday. So now you just have to sleep in a little while. Don't make your grocery run until 10, and then you're good. And that's only beer and wine. You cannot buy liquor on Sundays at all. I don't
Oh,
think.
okay.
But you can buy beer and wine at 10 a.m. So.
See.
And the other big one was that they made to-go alcohol legal forever. They kind of made it temporarily legal for COVID, because a lot of restaurants were doing like to-go margaritas and stuff.
Yeah.
And now that's like to-go alcohol sales are completely legal now. Forever.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's pretty cool. All right, so
progress.
Yeah, I was gonna say progress, but not full victory.
Right.
In 20 years, you'll get it. You'll get a little bit closer.
Yeah. The other thing too, the other update is last week I mentioned the Phantasm powder.
Yes.
New beer ingredient. I'm now seeing it everywhere.
Have you tried one yet?
I have one coming in the next couple weeks. But dude, it's like everywhere now. Like it finally got released to all these breweries and stuff. So
it's the new hotness. All right, we'll have to try it out and see. We might have to add it if we do a beer trends number 2 episode.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. In 6 months, if it's like all everyone's making. All right, cool. Well, that's some good news. Well, you want to tackle this main topic? We both spent. It was a difficult selection process. We both picked our 10 favorite beers, which is kind of easy.
This is one we gave ourselves a whole week to really think about.
Yeah,
I think it needed that. Also, okay, so this is technically just a big troll of my wife.
Wait, how come?
Because she used to have this job at the hospital. She was a transporter, so like she would anytime a patient needed to be transported from one part of the hospital to the other or something like that, they would call the transport team. They would go move the patient or like specimens and stuff. Anyway, they would just move stuff around the hospital. So, but sometimes they would just like chill out and hang out in their little break room thing and just wait for a call. So they would just have a lot of time like sitting and chatting. And she worked with a couple of guys that like they loved top 10 lists. Like they would always just be like, okay, name your top 10 movies. And then they'd sit there and talk about trying to figure out what their top 10 list was. And so she absolutely hated it. She was like, this is so dumb. So anyway, I told her, hey babe, we're doing a top 10 list of our favorite beers this week.
That's awesome.
She just gave me the biggest eye roll ever because I know how much she hates top 10 lists. So.
All right. Well, this episode is dedicated to your wife.
Yeah.
Okay. So
sometimes I will just use this platform to troll my wife.
Yeah, this seems like a reasonable use of it. I don't think my wife has even. She's like so far behind. She told me. I know she's not. She's not desperately trying to hear more of my words. It's so strange.
My goodness.
It's almost like she has...
Maybe we've been married so long that my wife is trying to like hear from me every once in a while.
My wife's sick of hearing my every benign thought. All right, cool. So we gotta go. Are we going to 1 to 10, or are we going to 10 to what?
10 to 1.
Okay, we gotta build up.
Yeah, build it up to like the climax. Everyone knows what my number one's going to be anyway.
Yeah. All right, so you going first, or am I going first?
I'll go first. So we're just going to do 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we got to hand it back and forth.
Okay, cool. So my number 10, I thought about 10 for a long time, actually. That's probably the one that took me the longest. It was like, which one actually made the list and which one doesn't? But this is a brand new beer for me, just from our Seattle Brew Venture, which was Edge of Dessert from Great Notion.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, that beer just blew me away, really. Like, the complexity to that lactose sour with the hazelnut notes and the lactose and vanilla running through that was just incredible. I mean, that's a beer. And it's kind of funny, like, going through this list, some of these beers I've only had one time, and some of these beers I've had many, many, many times. So it's the ones that I only had one time are almost, I don't know, it's almost unbelievable to make the top 10 because it has to be that, it had to make that big of an impression on me. And that beer definitely did.
Well, wow, that's so cool. I'm glad that cracked into your top 10. Now, yeah. Is that something you can get your hands on again?
Maybe. There are, the one you had, the double raspberry marshmallow shake or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
That one I've been able to find on Craft Shack.
All right, cool. That's a good number 10. And I got a taste of that, so I know what that beer is like. All right, my number 10 is kind of interesting because it's going to highlight something that I think is true of craft beer. I'll see if Steven agrees with me. Because technically they still make this beer, but they don't actually still make this beer. So this is Lagunitas Brewing. It's called, and I'm going to butcher that pronunciation, it's a mix between synesthesia, which is the experience where you have like crossover in your senses. I don't have this, but some people do. So it's like you can actually taste or smell, and you'll get like a visual component. So you might smell, taste color. So, and it's a cross between that and the word citrus. So it's citrusthesia, basically. And this is an American pale ale. It's bottled at 7.9%. And I remember the first year this came out because we got it. And I remember I was fascinated by this beer because when we poured it out, basically the premise of the beer is that they put blood oranges in it. And the first year we poured it out, there was like particles in the beer. Like you could see like little tiny pieces of stuff, which I assume was orange. Like... And it was amazing. So I have notes for it in my journal, so I can actually tell you. That's why it said it's honey colored with suspended particles. And I just remember it tasted, there was like a sweet entrance, and you had a slight citrus, mild, bitter hops. And then all of a sudden you got like pine, but then like right after you swallowed, there was this awesome like fresh orange juice aftertaste. Like you had just taken like a huge swig of orange juice. And I remember I was like blown away by this beer. And the next year came out again. And I was so excited about a 6-pack. I was like going to have all my friends try it. And I poured it into the glass and I immediately knew it had been like toned down for the masses because there was no longer suspended particles in it. It just poured like totally clear. And so that was one of my favorite beer experiences, just because I have such a vivid memory of it. And then it was like immediately toned down like the second year they made it. So I kind of miss it. And I'm suspicious that this happens a lot. Like where something is very experimental, but then if they're going to make it a second time and put it like in their main lineup, it gets a little bit less experimental. I don't know if you've ever had that experience with anything.
I feel like I have, but nothing's coming right to the forefront. But yeah, I mean, I can see how that would happen. I'll tell you right now, and I don't know what drove this change, but Otra Vez from Sierra Nevada, they had their original recipe of Goza. They changed the recipe a few years back. And it's terrible now. So again, I don't know what the driver of that was. I don't know if somebody was just like, let's just change it up, or they thought it would appeal to more people with the different flavors, or well, I don't know. I'm not sure what drove that, but that's a beer that's like, it's the same name.
It's not the same beer.
but it's not the same beer.
It's exactly how I feel about this one. And maybe I should grab another bottle of it, but I
So
think
that's one they still make.
Yeah,
They
I'm
just
looking at
don't make it the
right
same
now.
way.
It's not the same beer that I had that first time. That first time it was something very special. And now I think it's good. It's just a blood orange pale ale, but that first year is something else. So that's my number 10.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of beers on here. I may never get again. So.
What's your number 9?
All right, so my number 9 is called Hop-Hearted Hannah, and it's from Odd 13 Brewing in Colorado. When I had this, I was just sort of discovering Odd 13. They are a pretty small brewer in Longmont, Colorado, I think. It's north of Denver. They make some amazing IPAs, and it was a really early introduction for me to good IPAs. I had had plenty up until then, but when I had theirs, it was like game changer. And it's sort of like how I talk about Moonraker or I talk about Balebreaker that we just visited. Like there's something different, whether it's their house yeast or something about their brew process or their handling of the hops or their hop schedules or something that really makes their beer flavorful, aromatic, and drinkable with so little bitterness. It's just something amazing. So that was one of my all-time favorites from them, was the Hop-Hearted Hannah. Again, one that I probably won't ever get to drink again.
So they don't make this anymore, or?
I'm not sure, actually. They have a lot of different rotating stuff. They don't even have that many sort of standards. There's a good chance I probably won't ever drink this again. But.
Don't they also have amazing can art?
Yeah. Well, so this Hop-Hearted Hannah is kind of part of this like superhero series that they were doing. So like all the titles of the beer were like some made up superhero, and then the can art was like a picture of that superhero.
Yeah, I was Googling them, and I remember, I think I've had one or two things that I think you've let me have from Odd 13, and I just remember the can art. Whoever does their can art, it's so awesome. It's very like comic book-esque superhero stuff, and I love just looking at the cans.
Yeah, I think they must be, the head brewers must be like comic book lovers, because yeah, a lot of their stuff is very comic book influenced.
Yeah, it's super cool. All right, so and you kind of credit that beer for kind of breaking you into IPAs then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like really introducing me to, just what a good IPA, because everyone was starting to make hazy IPAs, and so you could get it anywhere and you could drink a million of them, but every once in a while one would come across and you would just be like, oh, okay. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it exactly. It's just you drink it and you think, they're doing it right.
It clicks, yeah.
Yeah. And then like 2 seconds later, the beer's gone because you just, it's just so good. Sometimes that's a good indicator for me of how much I really like the beer, is how long it sits there in front of me. And
that's a good metric.
Some beers are just gone in 2 seconds. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I liked that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a good
Hop-Hearted Hannah.
Because my number 9 is also one that kind of influenced me. So my number 9 is Ballast Point's Victory at Sea. So this is their Imperial Porter. It's a 10% beer. And kind of the hallmarks of this one is they add vanilla beans and coffee. So my original kind of like intersection with Imperial Porter was Sierra Nevada's Narwhal, and I really liked that. But I remember my friend knew I liked that, and he kept telling me like, oh, you have to get this beer, Victory at Sea. And I was like, okay. But this is like early in my beer drinking days, and I didn't really like know how to get it. And then finally, it might have been him, but someone got me a bottle of it, and I was so excited. And again, this is another beer that has really awesome art. There's like a skeleton like holding onto the wheel of a ship. And I just remember tasting this and being like, oh yeah, like I loved it so much. And to be honest, I haven't had it for a long time. I think I would still really like it, but I do want to grab one and kind of revisit it. But I just remember it was kind of my Narwhal was definitely like the first like big porter I really loved, but this was kind of solidified my love, because I just remember that vanilla note of that porter. Oh, I just loved it so much. It was so good. And unfortunately I don't have tasting notes on this one, but I'll have tasting notes on a few others. But yeah, I have to credit it for my love of porters, and I do need to revisit it again because I know they do make it. That I've definitely drank that. Well, I was definitely like if people asked what my favorite beer was, Victory at Sea was probably held that spot for like 4 or 5 years. I would go to Total Wine and they used to have it, and I would specifically buy bottles just to give to people and be like, you got to drink this. So yeah, number 9, Ballast Point Victory at Sea.
That's a good pick. I like that.
Have you ever had that, by the way?
I don't think I have.
Okay, we're gonna have to. This is what we're gonna do. Next time we hang out, I'll make sure I have one, and we'll drink it together. Maybe it'll be your gateway to the.
Probably not.
You have homework. You need to drink 20 dragon milks between.
Oh yeah.
One a week, dude.
That's great. It's funny how different our lists I think are gonna be.
Well, I know. I was making it, and I was like, okay, I cannot make it all stouts. So there's some other stuff on here, but.
Oh, that was like, I cannot make it all goses. I was like, I'm pretty sure I can come up with 10 goses and put them on all.
Yeah.
But I try not to. Okay, what are we on? 8?
8.
Okay, so this one is called My Other Vice from Duchesse Brewing in San Diego. What's really funny is we were doing all these trips to different places, and whenever we were there, we would seek out different breweries. And one of the trips we did was to San Diego. And so we did Stone, we did Ballast Point, some of the big ones from San Diego. But we did Modern Times too. But I was like, we have to do Duchesse. And again, like sometimes when you go to the brewery of your favorite beer, it's so weird when you get there because it's just like this tiny little place in an industrial park, and you're like, oh, this is it. But I ran in. We didn't have a whole lot of time, so I mostly ran in. I was trying to get some beer to go, and my one goal was to get some of this My Other Vice, which is a Berliner Weiss. It was one of the first Berliner Weisses I had. So just getting introduced to that style, this was one of those like sort of just very basic, no fruit added, no nothing, just like this is the Berliner Weiss in its purity. And it's just so amazing, so refreshing. Just a nice little lemon hint, like a cracked wheat flavor and a nice tartness to it. It's just fantastic beer. Fantastic version of just an original style. But yeah, so I ran in here into the brewery, and they did not have that one to go. So I bought a glass that had like the My Other Vice label on it. I bought a shirt with the My Other Vice logo on it, so just because I love the beer so much. And then asked him again, are you sure you don't have any to go? But yeah, no, that's a great beer. And just, you know, I couldn't put all goses on this list, but I thought I'd throw a Berliner Weiss in there.
A very refreshing style. And yeah, sometimes just like getting one that's not fancified, where they're just kind of be true to the original recipes. That could be really nice.
So hard to find, especially these days.
Yeah, people always want to add fruit or marshmallows.
No sugar.
Yep. Okay, cool. My number 8 is, you'll appreciate this one, Russian River, Pliny the Younger.
Nice. Okay. I like that.
Yeah, I love Pliny. I like Pliny the Elder too. That's very solid. But the Younger is very special. I mean, I've only had it a few times now. And I know it kind of changes a little bit year to year, but whew, it's a good beer. It is an excellent beer. So, yeah, it definitely had to make the list. And I'm a little bit surprised it's not higher, but I don't know. I think stouts are my true love, Steven.
Hey, that's okay. That's good. Yeah, it didn't crack my top 10.
I'm actually shocked.
Yeah, I thought about it for a long time. It's just one of those beers that, like, I appreciate it for its complexity and its the incredible execution of the style and the smoothness of a 10-11% beer, and just the way Russian River unlocks the hops and just creates an incredible beer. And the whole experience of going and standing in the line. But I don't know. A lot of what I was thinking about when I made this top 10 list was, do I want to drink this like every day?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
If it was in my fridge, would it be the first thing I grabbed? And, Flying Younger didn't quite crack that list. I love the experience, but
that will ring true in some of my picks as well. It's not necessarily like a peak experience as much as like something I wish I could drink every day. Yes. But we're not there yet. Okay, so we need your number 7.
Okay, so fortunately, did have to add another Goza to this list. Well, this is the first one I guess I'm actually mentioning, but there will be a few more. But this one is from Verhaeghe Brewing in Colorado, and this falls under the category of I had it once. It left such a big impression on me. But it's called Rollins the Watermelons.
Okay.
And it's a watermelon goza, and it was so good, so good. And I was just like, it was one of those bittersweet moments because I was sure I was never gonna drink it again. And it was a bomber too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, don't usually get gozas and bombers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep, it was a big bomber, and I've had very many watermelon gozas. It was actually surprising how many watermelon gozas I've tried, and they've all sucked except for a few of them. And this one was amazing.
Are they not making it anymore, or it's just they don't?
So they have their original goza, which is it's called something like Rolling Into something. I can't remember. And then now they have, and it might be seasonal, like coming up in this summer. Maybe I'll look at their tap list to see if they have it. This is kind of the time when the watermelon gozas start to come out, because right now they do have like a Rollins of grapefruits or something like that.
Okay.
They make versions of it. I just don't know if they'll ever make the watermelon one again. So I'll take a look and see. I'm actually going to be in Colorado in July. Maybe the timing will come out right.
Maybe you'll get to drink it again.
Actually get to drink it again. That would be really, really cool. But yeah, just a nice sourness, great watermelon flavor. That all came together perfectly balanced with a nice salinity. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. If you're licking your lips with the salt at the end, then you drank a good goza.
That's awesome. Well, that's a perfect dovetail into my number 7, which is Anderson Valley Brandy Melon Goza.
Nice.
Yep. And that
might be our one crossover.
Yeah, I was gonna say our lists are very different, but I think hopefully that'll be on both lists. And this is actually similar to the Citrusthesia. I don't know how to say it, but I remember I believe I had Brandy Melon Goza the first year it came out, because it came originally in a bomber, and I remember I got a bomber of it and I loved it. I got another bomber of it. I shared it with my friend. He loved it. And then I think maybe I shared it with you. One of us, it was either you, me, or Michael, noticed it in cans for the first time, because I remember I was so excited that they put it in cans, because for the first couple of years we had it, it came out like once a year, but it came out in bombers. And just seeing it in the 6-pack was like kind of a sign of like, okay, they're going to keep making this, and I don't have to drink a whole bomber of it all at once. So I probably still have the picture in my phone of like a text message. It was just a picture of like a huge stack of the 6-packs of the cans at Total Wine, and just like, oh dude, they're canning it now, and just so excited. So yeah, this is a mainstay, a staple for me. It's something I will always be happy to have in my fridge. It's just a go-to. So definitely one of my favorite beers of all time.
I have it in my fridge right now.
Nice.
For the first time in 2 years.
Oh, perfect.
And it's all I want to grab when I pushed past all these amazing beers to get to my Brandy Melon.
Yep. We just had a 6-pack maybe a week and a half ago. It's already gone, because my wife loves that beer too. So
you know how I was drinking it today?
How?
I was eating watermelon.
Oh, really?
And drinking it. That is the peak experience of Brandy Melon. It's so good.
I gotta try that.
Oh yeah, do it.
Supplementing it with real watermelon.
Yeah, find a good watermelon, just eat it at the same time. Oh, so good.
Okay, that's a pro tip right there. Okay, so what's your 7?
All right.
Or sorry, your 6.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is really cool too. This is one I found not too long ago. It's called The Mage from Anchorage Brewing in Alaska. It's a IPA brewed with lime zest. I think it's double dry hopped with Motueka and Vic's Secret hops. When I drank this is something I bought on tap where it just sounded good. I've had tons of Anchorage IPAs, both really good and really bad experiences with their IPAs. They do the kind of too boozy thing sometimes, which I think maybe they're always highly rated. So I think it's just the people that really like that boozy style end up rating them higher. This one, so I wasn't expecting anything out of it other than just, oh, that sounds cool. Like, it was perfect. It was perfect. It was made perfectly. The lime zest was an incredible addition to this beer. Like, you'll get lime notes from different hops, and the addition of the lime zest just really brought that out, and it just had this amazing lingering lime flavor at the end. Just incredible. And looking at my notes, I literally wrote, I didn't know when I got this I was gonna find my new favorite beer.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, like the malt and the hop balance with the amazing lime zest finish. I was like, I need this again. I'm never gonna get it again, but I need this again. So I'm always on the lookout now for the Mage from Anchorage Brewing.
I want to try that now. It sounds good.
Fantastic.
And Anchorage Brewing has a lot of heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make a lot of beers that are really highly rated.
Yeah. Their Deal with the Devil barley wine.
Yeah.
You'd probably end up finding some good stouts from them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, I think I actually have a stout in my fridge right now from them. And they make a lot of killer stouts. That's cool, though. I'll keep an eye out for that, maybe, if I can get that locally.
That's my number 6. What's your 6?
Okay, my number 6 is, and you've had a version of this, so. And I actually learned something new about this. It's just really cool, so I'm going to share that. My number 6 is Firestone's Parabola. So that's a Russian Imperial stout that they age in bourbon barrels. But what I discovered when I was researching this is they age it in a bunch of different bourbon barrels. That's part of the secret. But one of the barrels they age it from is Pappy Van Winkle. Do you know what that is, Steven?
I do, actually.
You do? Okay.
Well, it's kind of funny. We had this friend who was really into tasting. Is that Scotch or?
So it's bourbon.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it's
bourbon.
like extremely hard to get. I don't know if it's all of their stuff they make, but they make one called Pappy Van Winkle's Family Reserve. And I think the MSRP on a bottle of that is like $120, but good luck getting it. You're going to have to pay like $500 plus, maybe $1,000 for a bottle of that.
We were at the Porch. Have you ever been to the Porch in downtown Sacramento?
I have not, but I'm familiar with it.
It's like a southern restaurant, but they like pride themselves on their bourbon list. And so we were there with this friend that loves bourbon, and I think it was her birthday or something, I don't know, but we treated her to this like vertical tasting of a couple different years of Pappy Van Winkle's.
Oh, wow. You probably made her whole day.
Yeah, she was pretty excited.
Yeah.
So I think it was like a 12, a 15, and maybe a 10, 12, and 15 or something like
okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I like Scotch. I'm not too well versed in the bourbon world, but I recognize that name immediately. So the fact that they're actually aging it in Pappy Van Winkle bourbon barrels is a really cool crossover between craft beer and like craft bourbon. Just kind of a cool little note from that. And then I have actually... So this is one I discovered from my journal. I knew I liked it, but man, I took some good tasting notes on this. I'm just going to read my taste notes for this. So, one of the things I really like is complexity. So this is what I wrote, and maybe I was tripping, but I think I'm better at tasting notes because generally when I would make these tasting notes, it would just be me, a little journal, and the beer, and like just 20 minutes of solitude of like slowly sipping and writing things down. But I wrote sweet figs, licorice, dark chocolate, sweet cherries, vanilla, roasted malts, oak, cold brew coffee, and then I wrote 0 alcohol when it's 14% and you just can't taste the alcohol. To me, that's always like a miracle. But yeah, this beer is really special. They make it once a year, I believe, and it's pretty difficult to get, except I'm pretty close to Firestone, so it will show up for like a few days. I know, because they make like 4 or 5 other ones, Eldorado, but Parabola always lasts on the shelf for about 48 hours and it's gone. But you actually had this when we were at the Great American Beers Festival. We had the Napa Parabola. So it was Parabola, but they had aged it in wine barrels. I don't remember if you liked it or not.
I think I did.
Yeah,
I think I did. That was good. Well, isn't the other one I was gonna say I thought we had just the regular one with you at your house, but I think that was Sticky Monkey.
Oh yeah, that's another Firestone. They another one of they're kind of they're pretty special. They come out like once. I don't know. Some of them they might make year round, but some of them I know are like once a year kind of deals.
They make that Merkin too, or whatever.
Yep, Velvet Merkin.
Velvet Merkin, yeah.
Yeah, all those ones are quite amazing. But I think Parabola is like the king of those kind of releases. So that's my number 6. Very hard to get your hands on, but I've had it a number of times. Like I said, I'm lucky to live close to the brewery. So.
All right, so on to number 5.
Yes.
My number 5 is Juicy Bits, New England IPA from Weldworks Brewing in Greeley, Colorado. Weldworks is just the ultimate favorite brewery of mine. They're one of those breweries that makes these great like standard beers, but they also like delve into the funky and funny fruited sours. I posted on Instagram a few days ago the like Fruity Pebbles sour that they made. It was so good.
I want that so bad.
Oh
Fruity Pebbles is my favorite cereal.
Like, and it was brewed with, I think, lactose. But yeah, it was like having a bowl of Fruity Pebbles. It was really good. Anyway, that's Weldworks. They do really cool stuff. But my favorite of theirs is Juicy Bits. My notes on this were drank like straight orange juice. That's what it looks like. I think that's what their goal was. The hazy IPA category, the New England Juicy Hazy IPA category, was added to the Great American Beer Festival competition just a year or two ago, finally. And there were tons of submissions because breweries had been brewing these beers for a few years. They were like their number one beers, their number one sellers. Finally, it was a category in the competition. Juicy Bits won that competition the first year. So this is a testament to how good it is. It's like really, really good. I mean, so it was competing against tons of hazy IPAs. So to come out as the winner is pretty impressive. Kind of put Weldworks on the map.
Really cool to win the first year of a category too.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially one that like everyone was waiting for. My other note on this is I will never not buy this.
That's awesome.
Yep, it's just a really good beer to have in your fridge, and I can get it fairly regularly on tap. So.
Oh, that's great.
I usually do.
Okay, cool. So that was your. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's like another reason is like 6.7%. So it's just it's just a good one to have in your fridge because just like sometimes I look at my fridge and I have a bunch of double dry hopped double Imperial IPAs and they're like 9-10%. It's like I really want to drink that. But Juicy Bits is a nice, drinkable, sessionable New England IPA.
Perfect. I don't know if I've tried that one, so...
Yeah, I don't think you have, actually.
I'm going to have to keep that on my radar, because that sounds great. Okay, my number 5 is one of... They used to be called Lips of Faith, but they're no longer called Lips of Faith. But it's from New Belgium, and this is La Folie. I don't know if that's how you say it, but it's a Flanders style. And they basically take their Flemish sour brown ale, and then they barrel age it. It says it's a combination of 1 to 4 years of barrel aging. And then I think they blend those together to get like the final, combination that they want. But I really like this style, and I think this is my favorite version of the style I've ever tasted. And interestingly enough, I threw it into Beer Advocate, and it says for the Sour Flanders Eau de Brewing, it's ranked number 2. So yeah, I think this is considered one of the better expressions of this style. And it is still available. They kind of changed the way it's bottled. It comes in a smaller bottle. It doesn't say Lips of Faith anymore. But I've had this a number of times. Actually, it's funny because I really like this beer. It's pretty expensive. And my wife really likes this beer. And I wasn't 100% sure how much she liked it. So 1 year, I had 2 bottles of it. And I wanted to see maybe, just to see how much she liked it. So I gave her a different Flanders sour. I can't remember what I got. And she kind of like, and I was drinking a little Folie, and she was like, wait, let me try yours. And she's like, oh yeah, no, this is the good one. Like, you have another bottle of this, right? Yeah. And she's like, give me that. I don't want this. So I wasn't able to pull a fast one on her. So this one is a dangerous one to have in the house because she's definitely going to want to drink it too. So there's a couple of beers like that. It's Briny Melancoza. And then this one she really likes. So Whenever I buy one, I should probably buy two so she can have one too. Unfortunately, because it's pretty pricey. But yeah, I love this beer, and fortunately, they still make it. So
That's a good thing about my household is that the Briny Melon Goes is all mine.
see, you're lucky. Yeah, our my
The
wife
Juicy
and I.
Bits, however,
Oh, does she
is
go for
not.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We seem to overlap on the. Well, I guess it's not true the briny melon, but some of the really nicer things that I like. My wife also has the flavor for, so that's cool. I like her to have it as well, but I wish she didn't like it because it'd be more for me.
So there's another Lips of Faith series beer, Le Terroir, which is their hoppy sour. It's a dry hop sour ale. That one was very, very close to making it the number 10. I probably should have, honestly, but
So you know what's funny? I was gonna give it an honorable mention along with this one.
yeah,
I love that beer, but I don't know why it didn't crack the top 10 for me. But I do really like that one. Why didn't you put it in your top 10?
I just had so many other ones to put in there.
Yeah.
And it has been so long since I had it that it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, for sure, I'd want that one a bunch of times. But I do remember it being pretty significant in my beer journey, just because it was a hoppy sour, which at the time was just really cool to me to be able to enjoy those hoppy flavors in a sour beer. I noticed just today actually. So I had quite the collection of beer bottle caps, and a few years back I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these, and my wife was like, oh, well, I'll just make them into magnets. So she made me a ton of magnets. So they're out on my beer fridge. And one of them is the Lips of Faith. It says
Oh, that's awesome.
So I don't know what it was from. Probably Le Terroir, but
Yeah, I have quite a cap collection, but I still haven't done. I really wanted to make a table and then like pour
epoxy or something.
Yeah, epoxy and kind of bind them all in there, but I don't think I have enough. What I'm leaning towards now is I might do like a cork board and then frame it. But I like the idea of the magnets too. That's a pretty cool idea. All right, cool. So that was my number 5. What is your number 4?
My number 4, another beer I've talked about a lot, is Reuben's Goza. For me, it is the classic stripped down version of the just plain Goza that really nails it. And this was a beer that won the beer, gold medal at the beer festival for a couple years in a row. Just true to style, like no frills, kind of like my other Weiss with the Berliner Weiss. Citrus notes, nice tartness, and a really great salinity. The other sort of weird ingredient in Gozas is coriander. Gives it this sort of cilantro herbal undertones to the beer too.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's the coriander and salt that really make that beer, and if you can balance it well with the tartness, or you have a good kettle sour program, yep, it's amazing.
Very good.
And that one was chosen probably because I really could drink that every day.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that it's not a peak experience as much as like you just want to experience it over and over and over again. Yeah. That makes sense. Let's see. My number 4 is, now this is important to us, Steven. I had it before you, but I think you had it with me. It's Russian River Consecration. So this is their wild ale that they age in. They do a lot of wine barreling. So this one's, they put it in Cabernet barrels and they age it. And then they add Brett, Lactose, and I think currants to this one. And it's one of the first sours I ever had that kind of blew my mind. We had gone to Russian River. The first time I went with some other friends, and we just did the flight, as is my style, to get every beer they have. But they always tell you, like work from one end. I think they have like 3 Blind Pigs that might be there. Maybe that's one of their IPAs. But anyways, you start on the far left, very light. You start with their Pilsner. And then you work your way over, and the last beer in the lineup is Consecration. And the last 4 when I went were their sours. And I just remember right when I got to that first one, it was like, whoa, what is this? And then especially when I hit Consecration was just my favorite. And I still love that beer. And luckily, it's pretty easy for me to get now. With the new facility, they've really boosted their production. And there's a pretty good Russian River section in my local grocery stores. But yeah, that beer was left an impression on me. So, and I still love to drink it. And I think
that beer changed my life.
Yeah, it
changed the course of my beer journey, really.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, that same beer kind of like opened our eyes to a whole style.
And that's another, like, again, one of the things I grappled with making this list was like, I mean, I could probably make a different, like, top 10 influential beers or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
totally.
And that would be a whole different list. But that one definitely changed the course of my beer journey because really at the time, I took you to Russian River that day just because I knew you would want to go. When I drank Pliny the Elder, it was just horrible.
Yeah.
It was a horrible experience for me. I couldn't imagine why all these people were leaving with cases and cases of this beer. So I knew nothing. But when I got to that beer, it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know beer could be like this or taste like this, and pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, it's a great one.
Little did I know I was like drinking one of the world class,
Oh yeah, I
most
mean,
highest rated sours in the world.
yeah, you're drinking one of the best ones you can get your hands on.
That's your number 4, huh?
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to your top 3.
there's some heavy hitters.
We're going to the podium now.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, these are medals.
Okay, I'm really excited about my number 3, actually. Coming in at number 3, the bronze medal for me is Ghost in the Machine from Parish Brewing. Another fantastic
nice.
hazy IPA. Really, really fantastic. And this is a Parish Brewing, and it's in Louisiana. You don't hear a lot of craft beer coming out of Louisiana. It's basically Parish and Abita are the only 2 Louisiana breweries I can even think of off the top of my head. But man, their Ghost in the Machine is incredible, and I'm pretty sure it's won either gold or silver at the beer festival in the hazy IPA category. So again, it's another one that really, really stood out in that very large field of competitors, and I totally understand. As soon as I drank it, I was like, oh, this is my favorite beer.
That's great. And I've had Ghost in the Machine, and I can attest to it being amazing.
I remember you texted me like, hey, should I get this?
Yes.
I was like, I like dropped my phone grabbing it. I was so excited to text you like, yes, buy now.
That's so awesome. And I'll remember there's something so cool about Ghost in the Machine. A lot of beers have like really cool names. And they just kind of play with that. You'll see in some of my next 2 picks. I love the crazy names they think of. But the born on date on Ghost in the Machine, it says manifested on. And I thought that's such a cool like twist on the born on date to say.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And it's just got this really cool skull with like hops bursting out of it. Yeah. So
I've had
no,
a
that's
few
an
more things
excellent
from
pick.
them too that were fantastic. So
Oh, that's good to know. I've only ever had that's the only beer I've had from them. So maybe that's on our list of breweries to go to.
yeah, it's not that far from me. Well, I mean, it's like 6-hour drive, which isn't that bad.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Day
trip.
Day trip. I'll come down. We'll go. Okay, so that's your bronze medal then.
Made the podium.
Okay. Made the podium. All right, my number 3 is, and Stephen was so kind to bolster my collection of this beer. It's Fremont Brewing, the Rusty Nail. So this is an oatmeal stout. I think it's been getting stronger over the years, but from the data I pulled online for the show notes, it's 13.3%. But basically, they start with their oatmeal stout called the First Nail, and then they add licorice and cinnamon and barrel age it for 15 months in bourbon barrels, and then it becomes the Rusty Nail. Whew, I don't have tasting notes on it, but this is a very, very good beer. And it's something about, I generally I like stouts, I like them to be complex, and I really like when they have vanilla, but I think my favorite is when they have cinnamon. There's something about cinnamon as a flavor and the way it just goes so well, especially with an oatmeal stout. I don't know. I love it. This is a special beer every time I could get my hands on it. I think the first time I had it was actually at the beer festival. And when a beer stands out to you on a day where you tried like 50 amazing beers, that it's something that you really like. Because sometimes it's such a blur. You don't really remember what you tasted. But sometimes you taste something and it blows your mind and you're like, I'm going to remember this. And that was my experience with the Rusty Nail. So it's a good one. You got to come drink one with me, Steven.
I know. I got one too on my shelf right behind me, actually.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's what's true about the beer festival, actually, that like the few beers that stand out in my mind are truly incredible because, the fact that I can even remember a certain beer from all the beers that we tried during those few days, that was probably pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't remember them all. I can't even tell you probably like 90% of the stuff we tasted.
Mm-mm.
Especially as the day grows
As the night
longer.
goes on.
Yeah. So that's my bronze medal placement.
Nice.
What if
Wow. Okay, I'm very excited about your next two because I thought maybe that would be number one. So.
Oh, okay. So what's your silver medal?
Okay. Well, uh, I'm gonna make a little last minute change and flip my second and first, only because
Oh,
I had Briny Melon. I had it at number one, but I'm gonna move it to number two.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, only because the other beer has had much more like an effect on me. I mean, I love Briny Melon. It's like definitely my daily drinker.
Yeah.
If I had a daily drinker, if I could have it all the time, it's the first thing I grab in the fridge. But on a like more complex beer and a long-standing relationship with a beer that I don't know sort of changed my craft beer journey, I'm gonna move that to number one. So I'm gonna put Briny Melon goes at number two. We already discussed it because it was on your list earlier. But just I don't know. I mean, I've been sharing it too, which is very difficult for me. Because it's hard to get, but I love sharing beer. It's like one of my all-time favorite things to do at this point because I've tried so many things. I just love having other people try stuff. So I've been sharing it with people at work and stuff, and hopefully they like it as much as I do, or at least a percentage of what I like it. But it's just such an amazing, like the balance between sweetness and sourness and salinity. Like the watermelon is just such a perfect addition to that beer. And their original, the Kimmy, the Ink, and the Holy Goza, their original stripped down Goza it changed the Goza game. They introduced the Goza to the world with that beer. And then this watermelon version, and I like some of the other versions, but nothing like the watermelon.
Well, remember we tasted it against 3 other watermelon Gozas?
Yeah.
And it was a clear winner.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's
easily.
Amazing.
And like I said, I've had so many other watermelon Gozas, and nothing has ever come even close, other than Rollins of Watermelons from Verboten is the only other one that...
That's the showdown that needs to happen.
I know. That side by side would be really, really cool. I'm sure Briny Melon would still win.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. But...
All right, well, I'm very intrigued of this last minute change.
Yeah.
But I will give you my number 2. And I think you were going to think this is my number 1, so you'll have to wait and see what my number 1 is.
And you're going to keep me guessing.
But my number 2 is, and I've only had this twice in my life, is Bottle Logic Fundamental Observation.
I really thought that was it was a toss-up between Rusty Nail and Fundamental Observation.
Yeah.
Dang.
So this is an Imperial Stout. They age it in 4 types of bourbon barrels. That's how you know it's serious business. Similar to Parabola. Parabola, they age it in like various barrels, which is crazy. And I actually forgot to mention in my notes, and there might be a picture like this, but if you look up the Rusty Nail from Fremont Brewing, if you just put it into like Google and you go to their website, they have a picture of the rack with all the barrels, and it says, and it's like, handwritten on them. It says the Rusty Nail, and they're like dated. It's so cool to think about them aging there. So yeah, very similar. This is aged in 4 types of bourbon barrels, and then it's blended with vanilla. And I don't have tasting notes for it. I just remember, like, the only way I could describe it is, imagine you have like a hot, well, I guess it's not hot because the beer is cold, but it's something about like a fudge brownie, like fresh out of the oven. And then imagine you poured like bourbon and vanilla on top of it, and then you took like a cordial cherry and then you melted that on top of that. And that's what that beer tastes like.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so intense. It's so amazing. I'm gonna really have to make an effort to get a bottle or as many as I can buy. They basically do like a local lottery for it, and you have to pick it up locally. But I'm gonna have to pull some strings. I know a couple people that live in that area. I gotta bribe them to pick me up a couple bottles and somehow get them to me.
I very vividly remember actually the experience of standing in the crowd. And there's this huge crowd. They weren't just pouring that one the whole day. It was like, oh, come back at a certain time, and they were going to open bottles of Fundamental Observation. So there were a huge crowd of people waiting around for that to happen. And then when it did, so I'm like standing in the middle of this crowd of people, all who specifically came over to this area to get fundamental observation. And Jason's drinking it, and all these other people around me are drinking it, and I could, within my purview, like I could see multiple people having like amazing experiences as they just like transcended as they drank this beer. So it was really cool just like to stand around and see these people enjoying this beer, especially Jason. I think I tried it and I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah. It's definitely like, it's at the far end of the stout, like the barrel aged stout. Like it's as far as you can get from Dragon's Milk. It's the end of the road. But if you can get to the point where you appreciate it, it's worth the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can appreciate the complexity and the flavors running through it, I'm sure it's a really cool experience.
Yeah, I love that beer.
Because there were definitely a lot of people having that same experience. So.
Yeah, the eyes closed.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the guys pouring it were just like laughing and smiling, and like they had the like they kept pouring themselves tastes like between right. Every single person that they were pouring it out for. Oh, it was pretty fun. So that's my number 2. So we need a drum roll. Add a drum roll in post production. There you go.
Yeah, my table.
And and there was a last minute change.
Yeah. So this was like the 1 and 2 were always kind of interchangeable. So for entertainment value, I moved 2 to 1. So that was my 1 hadn't already been talked about. Thanks, Jason.
Sorry. It's a good beer. It's a good beer.
Yeah, it is good beer. Okay, so my number 1 is Pseudo Sue from Toppling Goliath.
I should have known.
Yeah, you should have known. So this is an American Pale Ale, all Citra hopped. And I will make a little side note. More specifically, I love the Galaxy dry hopped version of Pseudo Sue. So the original Pseudo Sue is all Citra hopped, and they call it, like I said, they call it American Pale Ale. It's kind of a hazy pale ale, very much bordering on being an IPA, with its level of hoppiness. But yeah, the Galaxy dry hop version is amazing. That combination, because I've had a Mosaic dry hop Pseudo Sue, I've had a double Citra dry hop Pseudo Sue. I've had every version they make. The Galaxy and the Citra is an incredible combination. But getting back to just the basic Pseudo Sue, all mango all the time, incredible mango aromas, incredible mango flavors. Incredible grapefruit and pine finish with just enough bitterness to remind you that you're drinking a hoppy beer. Perfectly executed. More malty than I thought. I ended up putting it side by side with a couple different beers and was surprised at the maltiness when I drank it side by side with some stuff. But just, I think what it boils down to for me when I'm talking about really perfectly executed beers, it comes down to balance. It comes down to not one thing taking over the beer and making it, I don't mind flavors sort of rising and falling throughout the tasting experience, but when one part of that experience is just too overwhelming, I don't like it. So I just love when they balance the malt, the yeast, the hops. It really is the peak experience of beer drinking. And Pseudo Sue is just one of those beers where I can sit and I can slowly sip it and really parse out the flavors, really experience the beer. And then other times I could just pour it and just chug it with dinner and just enjoy the drinkability of it.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. It's like complex enough to sit and sip, but also like drinkable enough just to have. I like that.
Because you can break down the flavors and be like, oh yeah, this is... You really get that mango. You really get that pine. Such a great example of the pale ale style, where it's just, the hallmark of a great pale ale is nice malt sweetness balanced with a really great, usually citrusy pine hopness. And, Pseudo Sue, I'm pretty sure it's, if not number 1 in the world, it's usually 2 or 3. And that's because it's literally the perfect execution of the American Pale Ale style. Just hazy, which is kind of a little different, but...
Nice, you're making me crave one. That's a very good explanation of that beer.
I remember somebody asking me, somebody asked me like what my favorite beer was, and I told them Pseudo Sue from Toppling Goliath, and they were like, "Oh, why? Why Why is that your favorite beer? And at the time, I was like, oh, well, I'm not sure. So that led me to like really taking my time with the next few times I drank it, really taking my time with it and parsing out the flavors. So that's what makes it kind of easy to talk about now, because I've done that research where I really sat down with that beer, knowing already that it was my favorite, and then being like, okay, so let's really figure out why.
Yeah, I like that. That's a cool exercise.
Yeah, there's like this, this drinking experience that you had and you've had multiple times where you think, oh yeah, I love that beer. And then it's nice to really sit down and think, okay, why is it my favorite? And then when you figure it out, you can speak to it. It's kind of nice.
Awesome. A very good pick. Didn't make my top 10, but I do love that beer. Maybe I just didn't think of it.
Yeah, too many stouts on there.
I know. All right, so my gold medal is not a stout.
What?
It's not an IPA, and sadly, it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, I know what it is.
So if I had a genie and I could wish for any beer right now to appear cold and in a glass, it would not be Bottle Logic Fundamental Observation. It would not be Fremont Brewing the Rusty Nail. It would not be Russian River Consecration. It would be Lagunitas Aunt Sally, which they don't make anymore.
This is incredible. The fact that Lagunitas is number one for you it's pretty awesome, actually.
Love this beer. And it's kind of like we talked about. When this beer was available, I always had it. When I got down to my last bottle of this beer, I would go buy another 6-pack and put it in the fridge. This is a kettle soured dry hopped ale. So they kettle sour it on the hot side, and then they dry hop it. And it is so good because somehow, like kind of what you said, it's perfectly balanced. And what happens when you start to drink sours and you start to drink hoppy beers, the reason you start to like them is you start to crave those flavors. It's very strange to crave like hops for the first time. But this beer could perfectly satiate the craving for a sour and the craving for a hop beer at the same time, which was like so satisfying. It like hit 2 dopamine switches in your brain simultaneously, and then a third because it has alcohol in it.
It's the Monte Cristo beers, or the chicken and waffles beer.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's like, yeah, it's just satiating 2 cravings simultaneously. It is so good. And I loved it so much, and it is so gone. But during my research, I had a glimmer of hope. And I know that, this podcast reaches tens of hundreds of thousands of people.
Just tens.
And I want you all to do me a favor. I want you to email them, and I want you to say, bring back Aunt Sally. Because do you know what it says? If you go onto Lagunitas.com and you look for Aunt Sally, it says gone for now.
Yeah, we need to lobby them.
It gives me a lot of hope. It doesn't say gone forever. It says gone for now. And I want that to say something else.
It's back.
I'm pretty sure maybe we're going to have to do maybe we could do a top 10 of beers we hate. But Dark Swan replaced it.
Ugh,
and
terrible.
I hate Dark Swan. Dark Swan is the antithesis of Aunt Sally.
I think you brought me some of that just to get rid of it.
Yeah, I hate it. And I don't know, I might be too hard on it. Because I'm pretty sure it did take Aunt Sally's place. Because it's kind of like what they have as one of their sours in their main lineup. But I don't like that beer.
Now, is Aunt Sally cherry?
So it's not specifically, I don't think it says specifically that they put anything in it. That it does taste, it literally tastes like cherry pie. It tastes like sour cherry pie, and then it has a hoppy finish. Oh man, it's so good. So yeah, it just appeals to like everything I like in a beer. At least, at least when it comes to like the sour side and the hop side. So yeah, that's all I'd wish for if I had a genie.
Yeah, we need to lobby Lagunitas.
I'm thinking about emailing them right now. Right after we finish recording, I'm gonna email them.
They'll probably respond to you.
They probably will. They'll probably tell me they're not going to make it, and they'll have to be sad.
Just tell them you have a very influential podcast.
I'm going to. I'm going to say, I know.
But don't look it up.
Trust me when I say I have a very influential podcast. But yeah, hopefully they make it again. Because there are other beers on their website that say gone for now. It's very possible they'll make it again. But they do not make it right now. That's what I know for sure.
Bummer.
Yeah, major bummer. So you didn't expect that to be number one, huh?
Well, I should have guessed it. You've said that many times that that's your favorite beer of all time.
It's just like what I'd like to have in my fridge over everything else. It's kind of how you feel about Brownie Melon Goes. I feel similar about it, but there's something about the way that it's sour and hoppy. Oh man, it's perfection.
My last really good hoppy sour was from that Black Project. I think you've had some stuff from them, right?
Yeah, they have some of those spontaneous ales, right?
Yeah.
I like them.
So my last really good hoppy sour experience was from them. Yeah, it's not a style you get to experience very often, but they usually turn out pretty good.
I'm actually shocked it's not more popular because it's surprisingly refreshing, and drinkable. I wish they'd make more. Those are the two styles. We got to use our massive influence. We need hoppy kettle sours, and we need pilsners that are dry hopped.
Oh yeah, dry hop pilsners.
So when we start our brewery, Steven, those are going to be our first two.
People are going to be like, what the hell?
We have to be independently wealthy because we're only really going to make beers we like, and we don't care if anyone likes them. So
hey, that's how you're successful, man. Just brew the beers you like.
Yeah, and if no one else wants to drink them, I don't care. It's more for me.
Oh, it's great.
All right. Well, any other thoughts about our top 10s?
No, I really liked that, though. That was cool.
It was a lot of work.
Sorry.
No, I liked
all that work just to troll my wife.
Yeah. No, I liked going through the exercise. It was fun. I had to think about why I like the certain beers that I like.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely the hardest thing, was trying to decide what kind of list I was making.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you could make a different list of the most influential beers in my craft journey. But in terms of what I want to drink every day, anything on this list, I've just died always having at least one of these in my fridge all the time.
Yeah.
Just have something. Because the other thing too is I always have like a bunch of weird stuff in my fridge, like singles of just random stuff I got off Tab or Craft Shack or at the store. And so it's just nice to know, to have an old friend in the fridge, something you're going to enjoy. Because you don't always want to grab something that might not be that great.
Yeah, you got to have your go-to.
That was probably what influenced my list the most, was just, what do I want to grab out of my fridge any day?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, maybe we'll come back and do the top 10 influential.
Yeah.
I have a little crossover, but
I think we should do top 10 lists every week.
For your wife's sake?
We could do top 5 lists or top 11 lists, whatever.
Just tops.
Yeah, just top.
And then what we can do? In 20 episodes, we'll do our top 10 of our top 10. It'll be a meta top 10.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
She'll hate that on a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm. She'll stop listening.
No, we'll lose a precious subscriber. All right. Well, speaking of subscribers, if you're enjoying the podcast, we invite you to subscribe. And if you're feeling especially generous, leave us a review, a nice review, or you can leave us a mean review, whatever, If you want to send us mail, you can email us at contact.attenuation@gmail.com. And if you want to watch us flounder about on Instagram, because we both don't really know what we're doing, although I took a picture of, I'm going to put on the Instagram tomorrow, Anchor Steam.
Yeah, that was a beautiful picture.
Yeah. So if you want to follow us on there, it is attenuation.podcast.
If it's a really good picture, it's Jason took it. If it's a crappy picture, but there's a ton of them, it's me.
No, that's
because I take a picture of everything I drink, but it's just a crappy picture of everything I drink.
I liked your most recent Watermelon Goza picture because it has the little chunk of watermelon in it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I want to garnish this.
It's very cool.
It wasn't the prettiest garnish, but I should have cut a little triangle wedge or something. But
yeah, you need a little bit of the rind, I think.
Yeah.
That would look cooler. So next time.
Yeah. It was very impromptu.
It's okay. And so follow us on there. We have over 30 subscribers.
Oh yeah, over 30.
Which we will describe.
As long as we don't lose any, we can just continue to say over 30.
Over 30. All right. Well, I think we've had enough fun for one night.
Yeah, I think so. Bedtime for me.
I know, for real. All right, well, my name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade. That's Steven.
That's me.
And we are bidding you good night and cheers until next week.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Attenuation of Your Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram or Facebook for more fun content. Catch you next week. Cheers!